Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Umunze, there lived a young girl named Adaku. Adaku was known throughout the village. She is wearing a white striped blue wrapper, arranging her hair in elaborate styles, and painting her face with the finest makeup. Her family was not wealthy, but Adaku's mother, Mama Ngozi, tried her best to make her daughter happy. Every market day, Mama Ngozi would save a few coins to buy Adaku a small piece of cloth, a hairpin, or a little mirror. Adaku would dance with joy, parading around the village in her new items, her head held high. But there was something strange about Adaku's obsession. No one knew where she kept getting her extravagant makeup, hairstyles, and clothes. The villagers whispered among themselves, saying, "Does Adaku have a secret benefactor?" Adaku's closest friend, Chidimma, noticed the sudden change in her friend's appearance. Chidimma was from a simple background, just like Adaku, and she knew how hard it was to come by such luxurious items. She asked Adaku one day, "Where do you get all these beautiful things, Ada? I never see you buy them at the market." Adaku just smiled and replied, "A friend gives them to me." Chidimma was not convinced. She knew every child in Umunze, and none had the means to provide such expensive items. She decided to follow Adaku secretly one night to uncover the truth. That night, the moon was full, casting a silver glow over the dusty paths of Umunze. Chidimma hid behind the large mango tree near Adaku's home. She watched as Adaku sneaked out of her house, dressed in a plain wrapper, with her hair loose. She walked down the path leading to the dense forest at the edge of the village. Chidimma's heart pounded in her chest as she followed, careful to remain hidden. Adaku walked deeper into the forest until she reached a large old iroko tree. Chidimma hid behind a bush, peering through the leaves as Adaku knelt before the tree and whispered, "Agbara, I have come." Suddenly, a cold wind blew through the forest and a deep voice echoed from the tree. "Adaku, my child, you have returned." Chidimma's blood ran cold. She had heard tales of Agbara, the forest spirit that granted wishes in exchange for something precious. Adaku began to chant in a language Chidimma did not understand. Then out of the darkness, a figure appeared, tall, with long flowing robes that seemed to be made of the night itself. The figure handed Adaku a small wooden box. "Take these," the spirit said, "but remember our agreement." Adaku nodded eagerly, her eyes wide with greed. She took the box and opened it, revealing a set of shimmering fabrics, a collection of vibrant powders and ornate jewelry. Chidimma gasped quietly. She had to warn her friend about making deals with spirits. But before she could step out, Adaku turned around, her eyes glowing a strange, bright green. Chidimma froze in fear, unable to move. Adaku's face was no longer the face of her friend, but a mask of greed and hunger for more. As Adaku walked back toward the village, Chidimma waited until she was out of sight. She hurried back to her own home, her mind racing with thoughts. She needed to speak to Mama Ngozi, but how could she explain what she had seen without sounding mad? She decided to wait until morning. That night, she barely slept, her dreams filled with images of the forest spirit and Adaku's glowing eyes. The next morning, Chidimma went straight to Mama Ngozi's hut. She found her pounding yam in the small kitchen at the back. "Mama Ngozi," Chidimma began, her voice trembling. "I saw something last night. I followed Adaku into the forest." She explained everything she had seen, from the moment Adaku left the house to her encounter with the forest spirit. Mama Ngozi dropped the pestle, her face turning pale. "Chineke, what has my daughter gotten herself into?" she cried. Together they decided to confront Adaku. When Adaku returned from the stream, Her hair newly braided and her face painted in bright colors, Mama Ngozi pulled her into the hut. "Adaku, is it true? Have you been making deals with a forest spirit?" she demanded. Adaku's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. "Chidimma, you followed me?" she hissed. "Why can't you mind your own business?" Mama Ngozi pleaded with Adaku. "My child, these spirits are dangerous. You must break whatever pact you've made with them." But Adaku was defiant. "No, Mama. Agbara has given me beauty, and everyone in the village admires me. I won't stop." Days passed, and strange things began happening to Adaku. Her skin, once smooth and glowing, started to turn pale and cold. Her beautiful hair, which everyone admired, began to fall out in clumps. The villagers started noticing, whispering behind her back. "Adaku is cursed," they said. But she refused to listen. She continued to wear the fine clothes and paint her face, even though her beauty was fading. Chidimma could not stand by and watch her friend waste away. She sought the advice of the oldest woman in the village, Neka, who was known for her wisdom and knowledge of the old ways. Neka listened carefully as Chidimma recounted the events. She nodded gravely and said, "Agbara is not a spirit to be taken lightly. He gives with one hand and takes with the other. If Adaku does not return what she has taken, her soul will be lost forever." Chidimma and Mama Ngozi tried to convince Adaku to return to the forest and undo what she had done, but Adaku was stubborn. She was too attached to the gifts and the attention she had received. One night, however, she awoke from a nightmare, drenched in sweat. She saw her reflection in the mirror and gasped. Her face had aged overnight, lines etched deep into her skin. She could no longer deny that something was terribly wrong. Trembling with fear, Adaku decided to go back to the forest. This time, she begged Chidimma to come with her. "I'm scared, Chidi," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please come with me. I need your help." Chidimma, despite everything, could not abandon her friend in her time of need. She agreed, and together they ventured into the dark forest. When they reached the Iroko tree, Adaku knelt and called out, "Agbara, I have come to return what you gave me." The spirit appeared, more menacing than before. "It is too late, Adaku. The time for returning has passed," it thundered. "But I am willing to make another deal. Give me something else and I will restore what is lost." Adaku's heart sank. She had nothing else to give. "Please, Agbara, I beg you," she cried. But the spirit was unmoved. It turned to Chidimma and said, "What about you, child? Would you make a deal to save your friend?" Chidimma shook her head. "No, Agbara, I will not make a deal with you." The spirit laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the trees. "Then leave, both of you. But remember, Adaku, a deal once made can never be undone."